Now we're going to move into talking about the certifications and any updates from the National Center of Pavement Preservation. I bring you our past director, Mr. Larry Galehouse, and our current director, Ms. Judith Corley-Lay.
Good day. It's good to see everybody here, and I got to remind you, you're all champions, because anything we do is not going to happen without your input and your support. So I really appreciate you being here today. And one of the things I want to say, and even though this is, well, I've been at this for 14 years at the center, and after founding it and working 14 years, I got tired. Honestly got tired. I'm getting up in age, so I thought it was time maybe for somebody new to come in. And contrary to the rumors of my death, those are false. But we brought in Dr. Judith Corley-Lay, and she is going to do an excellent job in leading the center. And I'm going to stay on, but only at 50% time, so I'll be able to contribute here and there and wherever I can. So I still want to be involved, but just not to the extent. Judith, you're going to do a great job with the leadership of the center. Moving into the presentation, though, I want to remind us all that a few years back, every one of the partnerships, the regional partnerships, had a task force on certification. And it was kind of a tough road to hoe because really nobody knew how we were going to get this thing started that would be good for everybody. And so that's where I'm really going to go and talk about right now is certification. And one of the things that we all talked about is we can have the best designs and the best materials, but it doesn't do us any good if the workmanship, if we haven't got it working on the road, then we have a problem. And so after all this discussion and working with industry, because we work very closely with industry to get this thing going, I mean, launching a certification program is not just about the agency side. We've got to get the industry side on board, and the International Slurry Surfacing Association did a fine job in helping pull this all together, and they're supporting of it as well. But we got approval through the AASHTO TSP2 Oversight Panel last year, April 13th of last year, and that kind of launched this whole thing. And at that point, the National Center will be the administrator of the certification program. So let's get into this a little bit. We really realized right up front that in order for certification to work, it had to be a partnership between the agencies and the industry, and both groups have to be certified. It doesn't do any good to have one group certified and then the agency or the consultant coming out and setting in a vehicle and not knowing what's going on. I mean, that's a big issue, and I think many of you have seen that before in your agencies. I know many of the contractors have seen that as well. So if we're going to have the high quality results, we've got to have a workforce that really understands what's going on, and that's what certification is really about. It's an examination that's really a measure that the person has the understanding to lead to a successful project, and you prove that through writing this examination. Currently, there are three areas that we have certification on. One would be the slurry systems. That includes micro slurry and polymer modified slurry. The second one is chip seals and fog seals, and the third one is crack treatments. And I'm going to show you results a little later, and it will surprise you. We say recommended preparation for the examination. Now, I think that we're going to have to scratch that and almost say required, because you're going to see some results that may shock you. Our analytics have shown us through looking at the websites here, and we can get in and actually tell how much time each person has spent going through the web-based training. It's somewhat shocking, and the grades correlate with the amount of time that people put into the study. So you got to take this serious if you want to have good results. You can't walk off the street. Very few people can walk off the street and pass these exams. And if the exams were a walk in and walk out, they wouldn't be worth the paper they're written on. So we have to put something down that really is a good measure of what you know. There are 6 areas that we talk about in every examination, It's automatic, project selection, materials, design, equipment, and equipment includes calibration of the equipment. The construction and then quality assurance. And quality assurance on preservation treatments have really been kind of something that we've left in the background. Quality assurance would be our quality control plans, our quality acceptance, and our independent assurance. That all folds up under this quality assurance umbrella. So we hit those on the examinations. What's the benefit of the agency? Well, I think that George Connor kind of expressed it pretty well earlier. There's a lot of money that goes into preservation, and we need to have successful results. And we have to know that they're going to be properly designed, constructed, and the treatment will perform as it was intended. That's the first issue. But then also agencies need people within the agency that knows what's going on and how to manage the treatments. They have to know something about it. So there's some real benefits there because they become the technical experts within the agency. So who do we recommend to be certified? Well, that's up to the agency because certainly the agency is going to make the call on that, but we recommend at least they consider one senior level inspector and designer from each district or region or division, however the nomenclature of the department is. And we also recommend there should be one expert, at least in headquarters, that understands this very well. And finally, and this is a biggie, and we're starting to see this more and more, particularly with local agencies, and that is consultants. I think state agencies are starting to bring more and more consultants out there on the job. But you know, the consultant community is not versed in preservation. As a matter of fact, I've been told that many of the consultants don't even know what pavement preservation is. So how are they going to inspect some of these jobs? So that's something you have to kind of consider. We're talking about, and this was agreed with the contracting side, that the contracting company has to be certified. And why is that? Because who's the contract with? It's not with your individual employees, it's with the company. So the company would be certified. And what's the company responsible for? Well, they're responsible to have a trained workforce. And believe it or not, some companies have a problem keeping those employees there year after year. So some of the people naturally are going to be green. That's fine as long as they're trained. How do you know as an agency that they're trained? That's one of the things we're trying to get across, is the company themselves would have a trainer or a certified person train their own employees. And then secondly, they would have to have a detailed quality control plan. And a quality control plan isn't that you test now and test then and these are the tests you do. That's part of it. But what do you do when you run into trouble out on the job? Because there's no job that goes perfect. So if you run into a glitch, what steps are taken to correct that glitch? That's important. So the quality control plan is there. And who do we recommend to get the training? We recommend the superintendents, a company trainer, if there is one. Large companies might have somebody that's responsible for training, but smaller companies might not, and that's okay. A crew foreman and the placement operator. If they meet all of that, then they would be certified as a contractor for 1 year. Now the employees, just like the state folks, they would be certified for 3 years and then a renewal would be up. Nobody likes to take an examination. We understand that. It's just part of the process. But we've all had to do it through our life to show that we had the understanding and knowledge to do our job in one way or the other. So this is no different. When a person passes the examination, they're put on a national register that we have on the National Center website and the TSP2 website. This is your program, remember, AASHTO TSP2 certification. And then a person would be issued like a credit card. It's a plastic, highly durable card that they can carry with them in their wallet to show that they're certified. So let's talk about the exam process a little bit, because getting started was a little rocky because people didn't know what to expect. And sometimes people would walk in and say, geez, I do this every day. I can just sit down and write the exam. It doesn't work that way. So far, we've had 382 people from state and local agencies take these exams. Here's the part that I found very interesting. We had one state, well, I'll tell you the state, it was Indiana, and they said, we do the chip seal work ourselves. So therefore, we think we should be trained as we should show that we meet the same requirements as a chip seal contractor. So they took it serious. They sat down and as a group, and these were not your superintendent type of people, your foreman. These were everybody that was on the crew. We had 36 people walk in, and out of the 36, 33 passed the examination. If you sit down and you take it serious and study, you can get through. If you don't, I guarantee you'll probably not be successful. You can see that was why that 92% was there, because we had very good success with that particular group. And the contractor exam is harder than the state exam, and why shouldn't it be? Because they have to know more detail than the state does, because they're responsible for their job. Now we move into the contractors. Again, it's not a cakewalk, but they did fairly well. And we did 174 of those exams. Now what's interesting, both here and the page back, which one gave them the biggest problem? Crack treatments. Now, that's surprising, isn't it? Because everybody thinks that's a walk in the park, but it's really not. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with a crack treatment, and it kind of goes to show that maybe there's not a lot of understanding of how crack treatments work. Then we got into the consultant community. Now, we haven't had a great deal of consultants climb on board, but we haven't really gone after the consultant community and even told them about this process. I think that if it were me and I was a state agency, I would say that any consultant that goes out on my job better be certified, because otherwise you could be wasting your money. That's my opinion. So with that, that's all I have on certification, and now I want to go through a little bit of what you may have experienced last year. And many of you, and by a show of hands, how many went to the national meeting last year? And so there were a few of you that haven't, and let me show you what you missed.
Public funds are being entrusted to us collectively as an industry.
Every transportation system was created to either grow an economy, improve a quality of life.
The largest single asset that you agency people have are your roadways.
Trust is my currency. That is the one thing that we all have in the public service. We have to earn trust. If we do not have trust, they will not give us the pot of gold to manage. That's stewardship responsibility.
The biggest thing you need to do is to convince people, and I've heard it several times today, it's the right thing to do.
I think many of you know this, but we had the 4 regional partnerships and really prospered with their meetings. There were 5 plenary sessions, 20 technical sessions, 85 speakers, and we had over 700 people attending that meeting last year. That is pretty good. And one of the things that I think we opened the eyes of certainly Butch Weidlich with Federal Highway, because he was surprised there was that kind of interest in pavement preservation, which shocked me. But I'm going to tell it like it is. And this is the reason why we partner with industry, because industry really got to show what they could do, and we appreciate the industry involvement.
Today was recommended more of the mill and patch and or tip and patch. And this is your joint reformer right here. So these have been beat down in just a little bit. But you can see there's your joint reformer. This is what you have to do.
And that really shows the value of the industry input into this partnership. I mean, without industry, it doesn't really go anywhere. So we really appreciate all of their input. These are the remaining payment preservation partnerships we have this year. Portland, Maine in a couple of weeks, and Traverse City at the end of the summer, and then in the fall we have Seattle. We also, and many of you are aware, that we have the bridge partnerships. This is all part of TSP2, and they have a very active program. They've already had the one in Charleston a few weeks back, very successful meeting. And I think that everybody in West Virginia did an excellent job of hosting that. I think there were over 200 people, a large attendance. Denver coming up in May, and then we go into New Jersey in September, and Minneapolis in the fall. There's a lot of other activities we're engaged in, and that is we also run the AASHTO Equipment Management Program. That's a very active group. They have partnerships as well. We've been doing some web-based training for the equipment group that eventually will wind up on the TC3 website. Pavement Preservation Emulsion Task Force and the Concrete Pavement Preservation Task Force be covered later on in this meeting. Research roadmap, that was something put together by agencies and industry and academics. Federal Highway and AASHTO hosted it a number of years back. We're updating it as it goes. Bridge product database, that's something that's ongoing. And then I don't know if you remember that book At the Crossroads. The book At the Crossroads, we're rewriting and updating it. That went to every congressman on Capitol Hill, representatives and senators. And we get this done, it will be done early summer, and I think that's going to be very good timing to have Mr. Mothrup and the foundation to walk up on the Hill and give that to all of the senators and congressmen. I think that will go a long way in getting some things through that benefit preservation. There's other meetings. There's a new group that's forming that we're helping out. It's called the International Intelligent Construction Technologies Group. It's international, like I said, and it will be in Minneapolis in the fall. The RPUG meeting, that will be in Denver in the fall, and then the TSP2 Emulsion Task Force, that's going to be in Denver in May. Now, there's been some changes at the National Center. There's some new people there. Zach Trost. Zach is our videographer. He's been running around, and I've been making him crazy trying to fix the computer. So Zach is new. Over here, okay. And then Kathy Clomas, she's out at the table. She's our new accountant at the center. And so welcome her. And then it's my pleasure to welcome Judith Corley. And Judith is going to tell you a little bit about where we need to go.
Having seen the last 2-3 presenters struggle with the computer, I'm feeling much better about not going down the PowerPoint route. I just thought I'd talk to you a little bit about the center and about how I came to be here. As most of you know, I retired from NCDOT on September 1st of 2016. I fully intended to go home, to quilt, to garden, and to play with my grandchildren. I fully intended that, but I have failed miserably at retirement, and I started work 3 weeks ago with the National Center. And many people tell you that when they retire from their agency, they are never looking back, they are never working again, they are done. And just hear my voice in your head and say, they don't know yet. They don't know. There is a huge amount of freedom in doing work that you really love, that you really feel passionate about, with people that you like and that you respect. I felt that way for most of my time at NCDOT. It was a great place to work. I also feel that way at the National Center. So you don't know what door is going to open. You've got to be open to it. I have been involved in this preservation partnership from its beginning. The bylaws that you all modified last year, I wrote that draft. So it was time for it to be updated for sure and improved for sure, because we wrote those bylaws without really knowing what the preservation partnerships were going to turn out to be. So things evolve, and that's a very good thing. The value for the partnerships for me was mostly in the people that you meet, the conversations that you have about issues that have happened in your agency or that you have with a vendor about a material. It always has felt to me like at this meeting, people were trying to do good work for a good purpose. And that holds a lot of capital in my thinking. From these meetings, I got motivated to go back to North Carolina and actually check to see if the roads that we selected for preservation treatments met the criteria for preservation. That is, are they really in fair plus to good condition? Are they appropriate choices? And I found, as you would expect, some cases, in fact, most cases were good choices. But then there were isolated areas where they did not quite get the program. And that is an opportunity to improve your program from the inside. But if you don't ever check, you won't know where you need to target that training. In my new role, as Larry was pointing out, there are 3 different sets of partnerships. There's bridge preservation, there's pavement preservation, and then there's the equipment management. 2 weeks ago, I attended my first ever bridge preservation partnership meeting in Charleston, had a great time in Charleston. And I've got to say, there was the same enthusiasm in the room as I have always felt at the pavement preservation partnerships. Those bridge preservation guys really were enthusiastic about the work that was going on. Over the summer, I'm going to attend a couple of equipment management meetings. That'll be a learning experience because just like I went to bridge, I knew nothing about bridge preservation. Well, I know even less about equipment management, but what I found is that if you listen to the conversation, even in an area that you don't know a lot about, you can pick up what are the areas where a lot of people need answers. What are the opportunities there for research, for training, for guidelines, for tools to help people do their work? So I'm hoping that as being one of these keen listeners, I can help the center achieve its 3 core missions. Outreach, that's us interacting with states and with vendors. of all types, education and training, and research. So I'm hoping for a partnership, not just between the partnerships, but also with the center. My goal is to help the partnerships achieve their own needs to help their agencies. How many of you have looked at the TSP2 website? Honestly. Okay, a few of you, and I applaud you and I am somewhat impressed, because I would come to the partnership meetings, but I often didn't have time or the stuff on my desk was on fire and the TSP2 website was not, so you put out the fire. That website, though, is a huge asset to you. It contains specifications from other states. It includes all kinds of test reports and research results, and great links to people that can help you do your work. So I encourage you to look at that resource in a way that you maybe haven't done so far. We all need to be focusing on research that answers real questions, that helps you produce better products, better projects, and better performance. That's the goal. It isn't, I came from academia, you gotta forgive me, but our goal here is not to develop the next three-dimensional finite element program. It isn't. We're trying to deliver preservation projects that meet the needs of our citizens. That's it. Certification, Larry has spoken very eloquently about certification. Retirements and changes in state procurement processes have required states to move out of self-performing work into contracted work. As a result, we've lost much of the in-house expertise on these treatments. And not only that, we have not developed the in-house expertise to inspect work done by others. We need contractors to deliver top quality projects, and we need inspectors who can tell a good job from a less than good job. Those two things have to happen at the same time. And training. We've all talked about training, and I know you may glaze over at the idea of it, but training is not just training agency crews or engineers or project selection people. It's also about training our elected officials in government. Every 4 years, we have a change in government. In North Carolina, it happens much faster than that, it seems. But every time you have one of those changes, you have to reteach the message to a new group of players who will think they're discovering it for the first time. So it's an ongoing process. We have to train employees because people in my generation are retiring out of agencies, and, at a whack, 30 years of experience is walking out the door every time when a seasoned employee departs. So we need to train new employees on the value of preservation so that they understand the importance of what they're doing, but also so they can explain it to citizens. We need to provide tools because when you're out doing a chip seal on a rural road, it is very common for a citizen to come out on their front porch and ask questions. And that crew needs to be able to say something better than, well, they just told me to come out here and shoot tar and gravel. We got to do better than that. We have to explain why it's so cost effective and why the product is suitable to the particular roadway. And finally, I think another place where we need to address our attention is at asset management. Luis couldn't talk about MAP 21, but MAP 21 requires a risk-based asset management plan that includes setting of targets by states and a 10-year financial plan on how you're going to maintain infrastructure condition. Now, it could be that those requirements go away, but it also could be that they don't. And I think we all will be better served if we're prepared for that eventuality. I'm going to struggle to fill Larry's shoes. He has been at the preservation front for his 14 years at the National Center, but also for a great deal of his time when he was with Michigan DOT. He is very passionate about it, and I am as well. He has been and continues to be a leader and crusader for the cause. I hope you'll take just a second. Let's thank Larry for his work on preservation. Now, I'm just about done. I just want to let you know I'm going to be here through Thursday. If you have suggestions, if you have ideas on how best we can express the value of the partnerships to your leadership, how do you want me to express that to them? Because we need to keep telling them that this has value for you as an employee so that your participation continues. If you have questions, feel free to ask. And if you have suggestions, I'll be happy to write them all down and take action with them. It's going to take all of us to be successful. So let's work together and get the job done. Thank you.